Divorce men of Reddit, what moment with your former wife made me think yup, I'm asking this girl to divorce me? Besides the narcissism, random violence and violent outbursts, it was her strange punishments. Her last one doomed her. My crime? I forgot milk on the way home from work, so she didn't talk to me, not one word, for a week. Pure bliss, for a week. When she asked if I was ready to apologize, I handed her the divorce papers. Why? Because you rob me of solitude, but provide me with no companionship. We were already not speaking. It was Thanksgiving. I knew she wasn't going to bother, but I made a turkey, and whatever goes with turkey for my then 8-year-old daughter. I had the turkey out on the counter to rest after roasting. My beloved bride walked in, calmly threw the turkey in the kitchen trash can, and walked out. I had to take my kid to King Golden Corral for Thanksgiving. That was it. I was done. When the cops showed up and arrested me while I was washing dishes, found out after being taken to the station that she had claimed that I had been beating on her and my 5-year-old son, was acquitted in court a month or so later. The situation was so messed up that the cops actually testified on my behalf. I was working on a mother-daughter scrapbook as a Christmas present for her. Was going through her Google Photos account looking for pics of them together. Came across a selfie she took with some dude laying on her. Confirmed her second affair. Knew it was over the moment I saw it. That has f***ed me up pretty good. I can't live in this house anymore. It's not in a major city. We're less than an hour away from one. Also, I inherited this house. It costs me nothing but upkeep. Also, I pay every bill. You work 6 hours a week and have one class. Where do you get off demanding anything? Buy me a new house or we're done. Get the f out of my house. 15 years in, and I find texts on her phone. Completely blindsided. No clue she had it in her to cheat. Told me it was just texting. Begged for forgiveness. I caved. A month later, checked the phone bill to find that it never stopped. Confronted her again. Cue more begging and more denial on my part that she would let the life we had built go down in flames. This went on for a few months. So many promises. One night, I caught her on the phone when she thought I had left. Suddenly it's not just texts. Sometimes it was phone calls too. Just a friend she could talk to that she'll let things go too far with. Promised to break all contact. Swore it was never physical. Then I found emails. She detailed things that made me sick to read, but also included descriptions of his house. She broke finally, but swore it was all just in the line of duty. That's how she met, you see. Visiting nurse service, and this guy was a client. Promised she was done. Loved me, you see. No chance she was going to let 15 years go like that. I wasn't buying it anymore though. She announced she was going out one night with a work friend. Promised they were only going to the bar, then she'd be home. Maybe late, but not too late. She had taken over her own phone account by then, but wasn't bright enough to understand that Google Latitude was still showing me where she was, and I wasn't about to show my hand. She kissed me goodbye and beelined right for his house, and was there until the wee hours of the morning. Once I knew where she had headed, I called her dad and my best friend to keep me from doing anything dumb. I will love them both forever for keeping me calm while my world went f***ing insane all around me. My father-in-law offered to stay with the kids and wait for her to get home. Around 3 AM, while couch surfing my buddy's place, she sent me a nasty text asking where the f*** I thought I was. I texted her a screenshot of her little GPS dot at her boyfriend's and let her know I'd be sending her some paperwork soon. Preface: we were doing a trial separation. She moved into the spare bedroom of our apartment. Divorce had been thrown around, but we still spent time together and slept together. I wasn't seriously considering divorce, but rather counseling, etc. Up until the day I came home from work at the same time I came home every day, and she was in her room being f***ed by some random guy she met on Tinder. She had not told him she was married. I kicked him out of the apartment and made it clear to her I would be moving out as soon as possible. Edit. Must add that she expressed interest in counseling as well, and that we discuss ground rules for the separation, one of which was do not f other people. Edit 2. Thanks for all the love. For those asking, I moved out because I couldn't afford the apartment on my own. I didn't kick the guy's ass, but I did tell him, while punching the door, that he had 3 minutes to get out of my apartment. I said if he wasn't out in 3 minutes I was going to break down the door, and it wouldn't be to shake hands. Proud of that line from Enraged Me. Usually I'm not very articulate when angry. He was out in a little over 2 minutes. I used to love to do chores for her because she loved being taken care of. When she stopped noticing, it started hurting. Then one day I made a bench for our entryway out of barnwood. Took about 40 hours of work. She walked in the house after work that day and sat her purse on it and proceeded to start the fight, where she told me that she was mad she got married to me. She stormed out of the house grabbing her purse. Never noticed the bench was there. I knew then, but I think she already knew. My wife was around less and less, had to be free to live her life, go out with her friends. More often than not she would call me to pick our daughter up from daycare. After promising to pick her up and have some girl time, just tell her I'm working late or not feeling well. She always had something better to do, and the kids were old enough to know better. I went to pick our daughter up one day. When they called her name she came running over until she saw it wasn't mom. Again, slumped her shoulders and slowly walked over to ask what's her excuse this time. That was the breaking point. Told her to get out, even helped pay her security deposit to get her out. We met and spent the first 7 years of our married life on the West Coast, then moved east. 5 years later, I took a job back on the West Coast, but it was the middle of the school year, so I went out ahead and lived on my own until everyone could join me. Things hadn't been very good between us for a while, but I hadn't articulated it to her, or even myself beyond vague feelings of dissatisfaction. One weekend, out there on my own, I decided to take a day and drive to one of my favorite towns, a town in which I had lived long before I knew her, a town we had visited often while married. It was late afternoon, was about to head back to my hotel when I realized that I could visit a particular beach that had special meaning to me from my earlier life there. I stopped at a convenience store, grabbed a growlsh like I used to drink on that beach, and drove out there. Hiked out to a specific spot I remembered, sat down, popped the beer, and looked out over the ocean. And it hit me that I hadn't done that in over 20 years. Whenever we'd visit the area, I'd suggest stopping at the beach, but she wasn't interested and would always veto the idea. I'm sure reading this, it seems like the tiniest thing, but it was the catalyst for me realizing just how completely dissatisfied I was with our relationship. I think from the time I sat down, I knew it was over within maybe 10 minutes. Just sitting there, sipping my beer, looking at the ocean. There were many reasons, but this was the final straw. My grandmother was on her deathbed. My ex took this time to throw a childish fit because I ordered food that she didn't like. I realized at that point how completely miserable I was and how f***ing short life is. So we divorced. She took all my money and my kids, plus child support. I've still never been happier, and every time I have to interact with her it blows my mind that we made it 9 years. I guess when we were together I was so trained to comply and overlook. I now see what an absolute toxic bully she is/was. During the last year and a half of our marriage she became extremely psychologically abusive. She was a narcissist, controlled my every move, would isolate me, refused physical contact. I was just an extension to her life, was not allowed to talk to any female, was not allowed to hang out with any friends, or she would ignore me for up to 5 days at a time. Double standards everywhere, verbal abuse, and the list can continue, but it hurts to think about. The last straw for me was when she threatened to kill me because I came home from work late, even though she knew I would be home late. It was just a little too late for her, and she also threatened to hit me the same day. This was the second time this happened, and I talked with several people at work about it, and they suggested that I run. I had texts of the threats on my phone, and contacted a lawyer that same week. She agreed to sign, since I told her I would take severe legal action if she didn't. Thankfully no children, and it was a clean divorce, and I'm happily divorced. That would be the moment I walked in from work, to find my wife sitting at the kitchen table crying, and our 2 children, 5 and 2 at the time, nowhere to be found. I immediately thought something had happened to the kids. When I asked what was wrong, "Where are the kids?" she said they are fine. They are upstairs playing. I just realized that when we die the kids and I are all going to be in heaven, and you won't be there with us. Context: we were both raised in religious families, but throughout college neither of us practiced at all. After college I began migrating toward my ultimate destination as an atheist. She found God and was reborn. Not me, but one of my best friends got his permission to post. He got a pretty substantial year-end bonus from work. He decided to use most of it for his wife's Christmas gift and pay off her remaining student loans, $14,700, and the remaining portion to buy a new computer chair for when he gamed, $300. Christmas morning, he was nice enough to let me stay at his place when I traveled for work as he lived 20 minutes from the airport. We all woke up and had breakfast. His family and her parents came over and we started exchanging gifts. Besides paying off her loans, he had gotten her a few times items. She opened the card saying her loans were paid off. She just sat there for a minute. After the silence, and assuming she was kinda in shock, she asked, "Did you seriously not get me anything else? I bought you that stupid keyboard, the wrong one by the way, and you only got me a few things?" At that point, his brother-in-law and myself decided to go hang out in another room for a while. They ended up getting into a huge fight. A day later, when he was dropping me off at the airport, he told me that he was going to visit a lawyer and get a divorce. She had lost her job again after quitting a decent one because she didn't get along with her boss. Anyways, a few months go by and I'm doing everything: cooking, laundry, dishes, yard work, etc. I'd ask the kids, "What does mom do all day?" and they said she plays on the computer all day. So the final straw came when I came home from work and had to wash dishes so I could make dinner. Dinner is made, so I tell family it's ready. She comes to get a plate and serves herself first instead of our youngest child, who was 4 at the time and couldn't serve himself. As I watched this unfold, it dawned on me, if I'm going to do all the work I might as well do it by myself or find a partner to share the load with, because she clearly didn't want to be on my team. Edit: to those mentioning depression. Yes, she was, and maybe still is. She was on meds for it, and we went to counseling after the birth of one of our kids, and she had postpartum depression. At this time she stepped out on our marriage with at least 3 guys. I finally got proof with hidden caller ID and a voice activated tape recorder hidden under our bed. Yep, got to hear them having sex. Long story, but we stayed together. IDK if the counseling helped or not. I also need to add that she was never good with money. Blew a small inheritance in record fashion. She would give me money for joint bills, and I was handing it back over so she could put gas in her car, or she had bill of hers due. One year we got a nice tax refund and she promptly tells me she owes her stepdad $2,000. WTF. Still stayed. In short, my earlier response was to OP's question, and the edit is some background, so you know that this was something that had been building for years. I worked, she played. She woke me up in the middle of the night to grab the extra blanket off the bed. I expected to find her disgruntled on the couch alone the next morning. I found her in the guest bed with another woman, both naked. No forewarnings or clue-ins, just despondent betrayal. I woke her for answers and got a whole lot of mumbles. Decided to split for space. That weekend we both ended up at the same bar on the same dance floor. I thought she'd followed me there to make amends. She'd brought the same girl and completely ignored me when I called out to her. When I walked up to her, she pretended I was a stranger. I told her I'm not going to play any games and didn't know what was going on. She said she didn't want to be married. I gave her the ring back and went to tell my friends goodbye that night. I didn't want to tell them why. I felt so embarrassed. She saw me talking to my friends and decided to make out in front of us with her new woman directly on the dance floor 8 feet away from where I stood while everyone stared. Looking back now I realize she probably was scared to come out. I can give her credit for that. But she was an awful person for the way she did it and for never having the courage to say to my face whatever she was feeling. I thought we were best friends. I thought we were going to be together forever. She asked me to marry her. Now I'm just grateful for not being with a liar and a coward. I've made a fresh start. Sold everything. Traded my entire wardrobe and style to feel like I'm in a new life. Sure, I've lost more money than I ever thought imaginable. And the dog. I just keep optimistic that I'll find someone who deserves my time. I don't focus on the past, and I have faith in God in the future. Whoever I marry next will be grateful for a man like me and loyal. But until then I'm gonna enjoy the single life again and just play. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.